Okay, good morning, good day, good afternoon. Let's get started. What's Apergra? Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Apologies if ads just began. I should always check the volume. It's so easy to sit here thinking you're talking fine, and then all of a sudden realize that the mic's not set up properly or something's changed overnight. Okay, SQL Outbox implementation. Using SQL Outbox for Kafka messages. Table name is coded. So I'm going to try and build this NuGet package. It probably won't be there for a while, so I'll have to probably build a version locally as well. But at least if this can go out, then it's done. I have run the tests, so I built an actual test program using test containers, so that it actually runs and validates that it does. If I publish a message, there is one message in the outbox querying the table, so I'm confident that that's at least working. Everything's kind of built there, so things are moving along here. Allowing using SQL Outbox Kafka messages. Table name is hard coded to, and I'll have to document this somewhere. Configurations, Kafka messaging outbox, console integration for topics, topic configuration, and now be loaded from console KV store. Include configuration.console package. Not sure if that should be a package. We'll see. Okay, so if we publish that release, let's see if that builds. Should do. So it should build this. Mr. Jones, good day. How are you doing? Okay, so I still need to update the documentation. That's necessary. Still coughing. I'm sorry to hear that. Mine has mostly gone. Streaming with a lot more talking, obviously, does trigger it a little bit, but I can do a karate class without coughing at all. Okay. SQL Outbox to use a persisted outbox. You can include the outbox.sql server package. I get the full name afterwards. and then configure as such. I actually want to write it that way. Yeah, that works. So one option for these is to actually use a completely different database for the outboxes. That would be an option. That's going to be confusing. Let's see where this goes. Okay, we got NuGet packages. So NuGet.org. No way this is updated, but tbd develop.kafka.extensions. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to move that over to here because I'll need to log in to see where it got, and I want to make sure I don't leak anything. Manage packages. That did not publish. That did not publish. Pack console extensions. Missing the package. tbd.kafka.configuration. Uh-oh. Oh no, Outbox SQL Server. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's getting there. It's getting into the listings. There's configuration.console. I love this though. 630 downloads, 250, like 570 downloads. This is just automatic scrapers going over the yeah. tbd develop. Kafka.outbox is there. Come on. There we go. That's the 10th. Okay. Kafka configuration console. Kafka. So I probably want to consolidate these down at some point. To be honest, I think there's definitely 1, 2. Okay. Those packages. Okay. Updated README to include SQL Outbox. Console we'll worry about later. Did I change it for console? Consuming. No, I didn't. So I'll need to include console configuration later, but that is not my priority right this second. A build doesn't automatically trigger a release, so I have to manually trigger the release on build on that, so that is okay. Okay, so we got the packages, everything built, everything passed up. So now let's see. Liquid Sky, new branch, feature, update, Kafka integration. Okay, this is either going to go really well or amazingly badly, but let's find out. So I need to find one where I actually use Kafka. Right, so here's one where we do use Kafka. And ultimately what I'm doing is getting rid of these pieces and then adding Kafka and saying I do a publisher, and that should give me what I need. Let's see if ooh, they're already there. So this is the problem now. I don't have a tbddevelop.kafka, so my naming on my projects here is poor. And this is my issue with like, I've got to be careful that I update this properly. So I'm gonna have to manage NuGet afterwards. Because technically I need extensions, and then when I've got extensions, I will. Oh, there's a missing piece that I completely forgot. No, there's not a missing piece. I've got the service. Of course, there's not a missing piece. Where is it though? I don't demonstrate it. Add Outbox publisher. Oh, there we go. It adds the service automatically. So the really delete message. There's been a lot of that recently. The bot stuff. Go live. Yeah. StreamerBot, by the way, works fantastically, apart from one problem. The font size, you set it, and it reverts. Even midstream, it reverts. I found. You have to make sure you explicitly hit save. Like, I would like the settings for the chat window and stuff to kind of save, but that's the only issue I found. But other than that, thank you very much for pointing me out, StreamerBot, for this solution for the YouTube and Twitch chat. It works way better. I should. I wonder if it does actually work. No. Well, there we go. It does fire. Does that go in Twitch chat? It does. Nice. I have commands working in YouTube. Okay, so this does build a service. So if I include the Kafka outbox, it will get the right pieces. So I need extensions, and then I need Outbox SQL Server. Huh. That's interesting. Upgrade packages. I suppose that's a lesson you kind of learn when you do. No worries if it's a known issue. No, I haven't. But I'll be Saya, and the chat will be. I'll set it to a size, like I've set it to 20 now, and then it'll definitely be smaller afterwards. And I haven't touched the mouse or anything, so it's like certain things will reset it down. Okay, so that should now allow me to go back here and add tbd develop dot. Okay, so it did include it. Oh no, that's the mediator outbox. That's a different thing entirely. Okay, and then console. And what is services? That is the consumer service. That needs to change. So apart from some sublimely poor package management, package design, okay, so now with those in there, I should be able to go here and add Kafka. So builder.services dot add Kafka. So this is going to be configure and configure dot using console. And this takes a new console configuration. And this takes builder builder.configuration dot console service discovery address, and then Kafka configuration key is Kafka, and the settings key is Kafka configuration. Right this second, let's do it that way. Let's make sure it works. So that's definitely there. So this is a publisher. So we add Outbox publisher, configure, use SQL Server Outbox. Right? Anyone remember how to use my own code? Add Outbox publisher, use SQL Server Outbox. Why is it doing it that way? What is that doing? That's the way it should work. Add Kafka, add Outbox publisher, configure, use SQL Server with default publisher. I probably don't need that because I had Outbox publisher here. I could probably, because this default publisher just says use the Outbox. So I could probably tidy up that API a little bit by saying, okay, well, adding the Outbox says to use that publisher. Because default publisher here just means swap out to use Kafka publisher. So I was obviously thinking of, okay, how do I make this configurable so I could set a different type of publisher if I wanted to do a debug publisher or something else. I could extend this and then, but ultimately, this is the piece that binds the event publisher to the Outbox publisher, and then this Kafka publisher is injected into my Outbox publisher so that when the actual message is processed, it will actually publish. So from an API perspective, that's not the cleanest, but what is this doing? Outbox configuration builder, configure, okay, and this needs a connection string or Kafka.outbox. With default publisher. So unfortunately right now I need to do with default publisher. So I'll probably look at that API afterwards. So that should be all I need to now get Kafka involved. The challenge now is I need to go through the topics and build the so essentially this doesn't need to be here anymore, right? Because I've used console. Just figure out I need to put the puppy cam on. So service discovery address is 8500. That's fine. Sadly, that's that. As much as I appreciate the follow. And I do share, by the way, with Twitch, you can actually share ban lists. So at least 2 of the streams I share the ban list with. So if you get banned in my stream, you're automatically banned in other streams as well. So that is a feature you should, if you it's a feature that's worthwhile looking into, so that you can help other people out. Okay, so that's service discovery address, Kafka configuration. That's the key in console. So again, I probably want to work on this as far as an API design goes, because there's some it's not very logical. Maybe consider different usages. So with that there, basically what I want to do here is build my full list of topics. So if I go here, you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 topics. This I only have 4 of them. So which one am I missing? Projects, users, tenants. Projects, users, tenants, planning items. That's the other one. So it's okay for console to load all of these, because again it's a lookup. Right, and then that's that, and that would be planning item integration event, and we'll go check on that in a second. Right, not that one. Can I rearrange those? No. Planning item integration event. Yeah, there you go. See, that's that event. So okay. And then I need to do app dot use out. There's a thing I need to invoke. Configure SQL Outbox. Oh no. Oh no. That's why it's confused. That's why it's confused. Ambiguous. API design is hard. So let's see if we can alias this for right this second. Because I want to test it more than anything, right? So Kafka, configure Kafka outbox equals tbd develop.kafka.outbox.server. Does that work? Can you do it that way? No. Can't alias a method. So the problem is it's an extension method. So, and I've called them both SQL Outbox, right? I need it because it'll create the table for me. But I have two outboxes, and that's going to be a common problem. So ironically, they both do the exact same thing, just with different contexts. So I'll probably want to create like I might want to consider creating kind of a global outbox at some point, like consolidating them down into one style of outbox pattern, and then SQL Server for Kafka. Because realistically, now I've done this, the only actual difference in how they function is the wire up of the service. Everything else is kind of the same. So it might be that I can create one outbox implementation that works for both and has the differences hooked in there. But that doesn't change my problem right now. I've got two implementations right now. And sometimes you have to write that to know that they're different. So as much as I don't want to rebuild the packages because I got to rebuild everything in NuGet, how do I get around this otherwise? Because that's an ambiguous invocation. What would I do here? Ambiguous extension method invocation. So what it's saying is And this was the problem before, right? What it was saying was I needed that other. So what's it called? So app.use configure SQL Outbox. And then, so we have mediator outbox configuration. We'll live with that for now, just for the purpose of making sure these are ready. This uses both the mediator outbox and the SQLs and the Kafka outbox. So I probably need to make them more specific, or again, like I said, try and look at the similarities and build out a single outbox implementation that works for both, that I can extend both off of, which is probably a healthier option in the end, because then I could actually use one table. Right now, what this is going to do is when it starts up, we've got notification outbox. We're going to get Kafka messaging outbox as well. And it looks almost identical. Nope, scratch that. It looks identical. It is identical. So let's see if we can run it at first. Of course, I start all 8. I don't just start, because if this is going to work, I'm going to be able to. There you go. I'm not sure why that's caused. It's definitely in here. Unable to resolve service type I event publisher. Dependencies, .NET projects. Do you think DevOps is a good future ahead? Is it worth it? Absolutely. I mean, DevOps is kind of critical to, there's so much involved, and hello, Jeffin, by the way. There's so much involved in modern development that we need people who can, you can't do everything, right? Full stack, very involved full stack. It is not healthy, right? It's like doing everything in the stack. So I think DevOps is definitely a discipline that it needs more professionalism from my perspective, because there's a lot of broken ways of doing things, and I think that true DevOps should be integrated into teams. So a developer with an operations specialty in a team is my ideal use of DevOps. But then is kind of a member of a larger team of people doing deployments and stuff. Grumpy, hello, how are you doing? Health is, I'm much better. You're describing the only way I've ever known DevOps to be effective in my experience. Yeah, I've worked with too many remote DevOps that just have no idea how the projects work, and it always backfires. Publish integration. Oh, hold on. There's way more involved here. Domain knowledge in DevOps is essential for success. Absolutely. So the problem here is one of this event publisher is in my shared contracts. I need to remove that event publisher. This is going to get messy real fast. Let's hope that this... Okay, like I said, I'm committing to changing all the projects. I have an iEvent publisher interface. No, I'm not. No. I can do it. The problem is that to do it is kind of messy. So the problem is I have an iEvent publisher interface in my shared contracts. My now included Kafka library includes an iEvent publisher. So they are syntactically the same, but they are different implementations. And I'm now binding to the one that is in my Kafka Outbox implementation, not in my actual... So this is the one in the Kafka abstractions. Yeah. So I need to include Kafka abstractions in here. Rename is it? No, rename is not the easy fix in this case. So this event publisher here, I want to specify using iEvent publisher equals tbd develop dot Kafka. I need that one. And this is why not moving over to my implementation of the Kafka library sooner was a mistake, because now I've built in specific behaviors. Ugh. The interfaces don't match. So what I've done in this one is I've actually made this iEvent publisher takes a key, then the event, then a cancellation token. And it's an iIntegration event, right? Where T event is iIntegration event. This one on this side is an iEvent, where iEvent is this. And what is integration event? Integration event is event source and occurred on. This is event ID and occurred on. So I've kind of balked that API. No, the adapter isn't going to help here in this case. It's going to add more confusion to the thing. So the adapter, yeah, I could create something that kind of adapts it, but it's not going to achieve what I want here because I have a different design in mind with this integration event stuff. Oh yeah, I did. The thing is, what I was trying to do is build this so that I could use the library that I've actually built. But I've diverged with my expectations from when I started the Outbox thing to how I'm using it in my actual application now. So adding an adapter in here will make it more confusing to use, and that's not the purpose. The purpose is I should just be able to swap out my publisher. So the goal of this was to try and get my Kafka configuration friendlier, right? And to make it a little bit more manageable overall so that I can get it into new projects quicker. So the configuration aspect of it, defining, right? That's the mediator. And actually, I should probably put those two together if I'm going to do that, right? Because you can see the similarities and differences, right? So I add Kafka. I want to use console so I can move the configuration of the topics and stuff out. And then I want to use the Outbox publisher for Kafka here. So again, they're both using an Outbox. The Outbox is actually very similar. So maybe I can actually consolidate down into one implementation. Well, I did build from the outside first because this library was created as a offshoot with the intention of pulling it back in, but I never got to doing it. And then I modified it, which is a common problem. If you're pulling in, there was drift, right? So they started with a core plan, and they looked the same, but then my usage evolved inside of my application. I kind of like, I'll tinker with that and do it that way because it works for me. But now it doesn't. So it's not impossible to change here, I don't think. It's just, should I change it is the question, right? So the issue here is now this is a default integration event, which is a integration event, and now my inheritance is all off, right? Because now I'd have to pull my Kafka abstractions into this event, which is fine. I mean, it is using that anyway, into my events. The goal is to drop these 3 libraries, right, out of my main project so that they're maintained and managed. But I think I need to do some more assessment because I kind of like the way that the library is currently working. But again, it might be, is that realistic to assume someone's going to want to use that? If I'm building a library out of it. I mean, again, I'm using it for my purposes, and it is event ID and occurred on. So the idea of this is that it has its own identifier that carries with it. The difference here would be string event source, right? Making that optional. Yeah, so the idea of that is to trace where it came from, which I don't think is necessarily a bad change. The reason that this publish async uses that key, either way, is because Kafka Publisher, I pass in the key and I use it there. It's because I don't know what the key of the object is, right? So I'm using a GUID key all the time as a publish, but I don't know what is the actual identifying key of this object. So what was I expecting over in the new one? T event, publish async. Oh, so I actually did. There's something stupid here. I actually attached an identifier. So there is a slight difference in the way the tables are built. I actually add an identifier. And that identifier could be the key. So I kind of built it, again, not knowing why I built it the first time. So what I should have done here is, as I was building this Outbox, and because again I thought I was building on top of something rather than building, rather than building something that diverged. What I should have done is look back at how I was actually now using the Kafka messaging in this. So again, what I could do here is say, I could still get the same behavior. What did I do when I did the publishing? So there's a core publisher, right? This is the Kafka publisher. Key is event ID. Gotcha. So I assume the event ID will be set, and that's the key in there, whereas here I explicitly stated the key. So the key for Kafka is useful because it will guarantee that all messages with that key go in the same topic, and I believe the same partition. It will kind of get organized that way, because in Kafka you can control how messages get stored. Like if you wanted to create partitions of data and align them based upon a tenant ID, you could actually make sure that partitions are tenanted as such, so that all messages for a single tenant. So with a little bit of configuration and a little bit of strategy in Kafka, you can actually do a lot of configuration and control where messages are kind of getting dumped, which gives you a little bit more not just control, because again, in the distributed messaging, you end up with time-based problems as well. So yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to revert this branch, and I'm going to check out development again, because there's no benefit in trying to push through that and make it work, right? That will just cause pain, and I'll end up with a code base that is now broken in certain places. What I've got to do is tighten up this build, and what I might want to look at is actually combining the two solutions so that I have one Outbox. So again, the mediator Outbox looks almost identical, and the mediator Outbox was created, which it feels a bit like an anti-pattern. Not an anti-pattern. Yes, maybe. Because I'm kind of storing notifications that are built for kind of in-memory stuff. But what this provides me is with some level of transactional security around when I react to messages. So with the Outbox for Mediator, when I publish a notification in Mediator, if you just react to those straight away, let's say I've done something in the database and I publish a notification. If I react to it straight away, that gets processed independently of, say, the actual main thread, and then the main update crashes and rolls back. That notification still got sent or something like that, because it's kind of done at the time it was requested. So the Outbox here allows me to kind of disconnect processing of notifications within the application, and gives me some time to process. And if again, transactions roll back, etc., I don't publish things and say things happened when they actually didn't because they changed. So the Outbox here is giving me a lot of flexibility in that respect. But the Outbox in this instance is almost identical to the SQL Outbox for the Kafka piece. So what I might do is consolidate them down into fewer libraries, fewer projects, and kind of create a because ultimately the mediator publishing is the piece, and the Kafka publishing, and how they get into the queue and how they get out is because this one needed a slight modification. But this code looks almost identical, right? It's just this publisher, in this case, is the mediator publisher, and in the Kafka one is the that one here is the Kafka. So it's identical code. So a little bit more work required there. If I do it right, though, I should be able to create one Outbox, and then the system that cares about it is if I create one Outbox, then I'm going to have to determine that it is of type, because then I'm going to have to make sure that it's software design is hard. Really? Another bot? It's my day for this today. Yeah, I think everyone has. Well, I should be careful what I say, because last time that happened, I ended up with 1,600 followers. Yeah, I've had one of them. I've had two of the best viewers on stream, and one of the all hail chaos. Yeah. Messy. Okay, so that is not going as well as I planned. I wanted to do that before I move too far forward, because I've got a whole lot more pieces to focus on. Let's run this up and see what happens now. That was a wild time. Yeah, that was that was the closest I've got to getting actually mad on stream. I was getting very upset that day. Okay, so everything's running. Although, why aren't you getting requirements? I know there's requirements. Really? Methinks I just restarted. I know there's requirements. I added requirements in here. DBO, tables, requirements. Oh, there are no requirements. Okay, create new requirement. Requirements should actually get saved. So that means that that's gone to planning items and stored here. And Are you saying Kafka isn't working? All the consumers aren't running. Let's close that down. Let's close that down. Oh, there's a lag. It's not processing. Oh no. Now it processed. Nope. So planning items. We published it. There's one message in planning items. The process is running. Services. Oh, we have an error. The conversion of a date time to data type. What? So, two things. Off to work. Good luck. Delta, thank you very much. Have a great day. And if I don't see you around, have a great weekend. I don't know if I'm going to get to streaming this weekend. What the effect? What went wrong? Insert into projects. What? Oh, we tried to acquire the project. Is that what went wrong? So let's have a look. So if we go back to the topic, right, we see the planning. Go to here. So this is a project identifier. Well, that's not good. But it should, the thing there is it should acquire the project. So it might not be good, but it should acquire it because that's still valid. That's an empty GUID. So let's first figure out why that is doing that and then figure out the rest. So tenant management application. So what happens when I add a requirement, the requirement gets, planning. When I add a requirement, I post the requirements and I go into the application and I add the requirement. And realistically what that is it goes and gets the planning item and creates a new requirement and attaches that to the planning item, right? So essentially my to be clear, my planning item is kind of an aggregate and a model at the same time. So I'm trying to figure out how to change that without using the word aggregate too much, because that starts to again move towards more domain-driven design. But there's a good pattern of using it here. But either way, a requirement can exist without a planning item, so requirements get added to planning items, right? So in add requirement here, we go and we trigger an event, right? That event is listened to and publishes the project. There's the problem. So, I have 2 integrations that both publish project. I think it's time to figure out how to design this in a way that so in this case, I get the requirements. So planning items, requirements. I mean, okay, from an organizational standpoint, planning item requirements are not separate from planning items. I probably should put add requirement under planning items commands, but the subscriber to the event is still valid. What I need here is a I need a base class, or I'm going to make a base class. This is going to require an event publisher. And then is going to be async task publish. Let's figure this out. So ultimately what I want to do is this piece needs to go in here. Right. So we need string event source planning item. I mean, that's the planning item identifier. That doesn't really matter. Planning item identifier and cancellation token. Decidius, hello. How are you doing? And then here we need to inherit from planning item publisher. The primary constructor stuff, when it's used like in the inheritance, doesn't quite read cleanly, but yeah. Await publish planning item, name of event source, planning item, comma cancellation token. Doing good. I'm semi-hyped to share the song about the default trial tomorrow. Nice. I like how Deflux has employed a bot, trained it off the his past text, and is using the bot to talk in chat to keep himself in good standing. That is I have a lot of respect for the amount of effort he's put into that piece. Okay, so we're going to do a planning item publisher. So all I'm doing here is I'm basically just saving myself from this same mistake, right? I now have two instances where I need to publish a planning item, right? And it is legit. They should be published from these two places because there's some differences in why they, or there's a reason why they got published, but the ultimate information is identical. So await publish planning item. So again, we just take that. We take planning item, we take cancellation token, and there we go. So now we only have one place to publish, right? So even if we override, it's fine. Why doesn't that complain? But that one does. Parameter event publisher is captured into the state of the enclosing type, and its value is also passed to the base constructor. The value might be captured by the base class as well. Why do you care about that there, but you don't care about that there? I mean, you're identical code. Either way. So that will at least guarantee me I have consistency in how I'm publishing. So even if I pull something else that publishes or changes planning items for whatever reason, I can publish the event and not panic about the actual publish. Okay, so you should be able to run that again and get some information through there this time. Nice. So that's because it reloaded. That's fine. Create next requirement. Requirements should make it through Kafka. That did highlight one problem in so much as Kafka committed that message. It errored processing the message, and it committed it anyway. So it moved the there you go. That tells me it worked because now all three are there. There you go, all three are there. So in this instance, it's kind of self-correcting because the planning item carries with it the requirements. That won't always be the case. Once I understand more how I'm going to... So requirements right now are attached as an array of elements on the planning item. So when a requirement is added, we publish the planning item. And the current state of requirements is set. But I do intend that to be more text, right? That shouldn't be one line. It is now, but it shouldn't be. And there is a maximum message size for Kafka. So if you write War and Peace in there, then that's going to get truncated or worse, not actually publish the message. So the expectation isn't that this should be that long. But it could still be big, and there could still be many requirements. So that's going to change eventually, where requirements are going to need to get published independently of the planning item. Okay. So that's fixed. Outbox is a bit of a bust right this second because it needs more work. So let's go into here first. Actually, let me commit what I just did. Move publishing of planning item to base class. Avoid. That's an okay to push to development. I have no issue with that one. Okay, so simplest change to this, I do need to change that needs to change. That will be the simplest change. But do I consolidate? I'm not sure I do right this second. More, I want to make the changes. Configure Kafka SQL Outbox. Change. Okay. So if I change all this around, right, what happens to the actual main project is I have to go and change all the eventing stuff, right? Because these right now inherit from default integration event, which is an integration event. My concern about doing this way is that I start to become very opinionated on how to use the library. So I'm kind of creating a shareable library that I'm then being opinionated as to how you should use it, when it can be more generic. Maybe it should be more generic, right? So do I want to push someone to use my library? If you know, again, assuming people even care, right? But do I want to push people down this path of using it this way for the sake of making it easier to integrate in my project, right? So is the challenge with developing something with a keen focus rather than a generic intent. And I think I don't want to. I don't think I want to force that. I think I need this sort of thing. They've really got to fix this. They have to fix that. If you have two versions, if you have two instances of Rider open, and you're running a project in one of the instances, if you make any changes to files in the other instance, even if nothing's running, it will report as you need to apply changes. So it makes me worry that it's not actually tracking changes properly. So, okay, I have event ID and occurred on. So what I need to do is make this a little bit more generic. So I have two options. I need a key, and that's the piece that's missing right this second, right? The original code has essentially a key there. I could make that change, right? Which then means I don't technically need event ID because I'm using event ID as the key, right? With event ID there, if that message got actually published multiple times, I would be able to differentiate between, I would be able to see duplicate messages and therefore say, okay, well, no, I've already seen this message. I don't need to process it. So I'd actually be able to say, I could actually condense Kafka queues on that. So do I need default event? Is default event even useful? So event source doesn't need to be included. There's no need for that, right? That's not an issue. And what I'm trying to work towards here is, can I work to the kind of the actual core need, build that, integrate all that into my code, and extend, because my code doesn't require the event source is kind of an I can inherit from my event, right, when I pull that library through, right? So I don't have to do integration event here. This could be event. Event source is a thing I add, right? So even this could be event, right? Event source is a decoration of my design in the actual application. That's a specialization. I don't want the specialization to come in here because event source doesn't mean anything. That's an opinion on how to run the Kafka pieces. So first challenge, key. When I'm publishing, do I care about key, or does T-event, do I give it some sort of, how do you determine the key? I think I need key all the time, right? So I don't think that's a bad change. Hades, I am not bad. How are you? How's things? Good, thanks. Waking up. Nice. So today I am trying to tighten up my Kafka library here to then try and pull it through into the main project. I did try and realized that to include it, I'm going to end up with quite the mess. So if I do it this way, event, and the reason it needs that is because we need the event ID. But if I do it this way now, GUID key, then that is key. That makes more sense because that allows me to control the object has the key. The event ID is something that I could still dedupe on. Yeah. And the timestamp is occurred on. So I'm controlling the actual timestamp of the message from when I actually created the event. So again, if I publish the notifications to an outbox, when it starts to process, it will actually pull when the event actually occurred rather than when it got processed out of the outbox. That's why that's there. And this does flush after every single one. It doesn't rely on the buffer because I don't know if I'm going to publish one or many, right? So this is probably not very efficient. So at this point, I don't think that's terrible. I think that would achieve that. The only difference would be I'd have to go in here and my integration event would have to become of type event. right? It would have to be iEvent, and then that would go away because iEvent has event ID and occurred on, and then integration event is an event source. So, okay, it starts to feel a little better. So the Outbox publisher here needs GUID key. So now the challenge there is this message outbox then needs to have that key. GUID key. Because I have to get that identifier. So this is going to be refactoring that identifier now. Right. GUID key. Key. That's not actually this outbox message here, this identifier. Is not key. That works. The way that's now, it wouldn't be ideal because it would if there was a uniqueness on that key and I inserted 5 events for the same object with the same identifier, this would not be unique now. So there's no. What I was contemplating there was, do I actually create an identifier separately? Because if you look at the actual table that I'll be creating, right? So this is the current version, right? I have a unique ID on the table. I have the type, so this is a serialized type name, so I can deserialize this content back to that type and get it out afterwards. I have the actual content, the serialized message body, date added and date processed, right? The version, the Kafka outbox adds identifier right this second, which is a unique GUID here. That's actually key. Now. So to do the outbox properly, I need a GUID key here. And then this identifier here, because again, I put it in this one, that is key. Is that bad? I don't know. That takes key, date added, event. Okay, so it still combines it. And then I get it. Now there's the problem. I need an identifier, or I need an ID to get back to that message. Otherwise, I'm guessing. So if I insert 10 messages for the same object and they're different events, say, that's going to mess it up, right? So that key field is necessary, but not for this. Because I'm not passing this ID back, right? When I'm inserting records, I'm not passing this ID back. That's a lot of data going through now. I'm gonna have to figure out a purge of these. These are good for history, right? You can see the actual things that went through the system, but this table is going to grow a lot, and that's going to be unhealthy in the long term. So the whole purpose of that identifier initially was so that I have a uniqueness that I can go back to this table with. maybe but the problem is I don't have message outbox content as ID. So I do have the ID. So public int ID. That way, that would be that's bad. Because realistically, we want to do that. Outbox message needs int ID. That's really bad. How much effort do I want to put into the in-memory outbox when it's not really a primary concern? Let's leave that as is right now. That will at least, it won't work because the messages wouldn't work in it, but it does need some love and attention, right? So this needs key. So again, storing the key allows me to reconstitute this message, say, here's the key, here's the actual content, here's the event. That allows me to build that message out properly. Having the identifier, the GUID, was necessary. I was using that as a uniqueness here so that I could actually go back and refer to this message without this ID. So I've got two options. I switch that out and use another GUID, right? So the key is a GUID and the identifier is a GUID. So they are actually unique. So I can refer to any message in here. But that seems unnecessary when I have a unique ID here. For the in-memory message outbox, this could be as much as outbox.values.count plus 1. And that will still function. Right? Because this removes it, right? So this is a markers process. This actually does remove it by its ID. So that would be bad. But again, I'm not. I don't think I'll keep the in-memory out here working. Yeah, let's. The in-memory with that is just purely to use as a demonstrator, or you could use it kind of as a temporary buffer. It's really bad to use it for actual code, but useful if you don't want the entire configuration and you want to test that Outbox is working. So that's bad because I remove items. So if I do 1, 2, 3, then I process 1, and then I add another one in, it's going to have ID 3. So, or is it going to have ID 2, say? So I'd have 2 of 2. So that's a bad design. Another way I could do it is to create That doesn't help me, because that's not going to be, that's the same message. That helps that one, but it doesn't really help. Yeah, see, that doesn't have, Outbox message now doesn't have, this has to have public object, right? And this has to be, yeah, it doesn't exactly work. So the SQL outbox now, this doesn't care about all those things. The fact that I have an ID, the ID won't be set in this instance, it'll be null. So I don't care about ID. So I've made a mess of that API for the sake of maintaining in-memory outbox. So I should deprecate that at some point. But what I'm doing right now is kind of push and pull, and that's not a really good way to design this. I'm kind of like, oh, I've got a problem over here, let's fix this. Oh, now I've made a problem over there, let's fix that. Oh, now I've made a problem over there, and I'm kind of going around in a bit of a triangle, because I'm like pushing and pulling the pieces to try and make it all fit into a nice shape that I might not be able to solve all the problems at once. But I am educating myself on why I need these things. So I'm at least stopping and thinking, well, why do I need to do it that way? Why do I need this? Is there any other way to write code? I could sit down and kind of plan this out a little bit better. Like the problem with that, what I need to do is I need to educate myself as I go, and then make harder decisions once I've come up with an actual design that fits. Right, but so a lot of code is written in that way and then never reflected back upon, right? And that's why I kind of said I'm educating myself, and I'm making sure I'm kind of thinking about why I'm doing these things, because a lot of code exists in that manner where they've kind of pushed and pulled, made it work, and then moved on. And I got to make sure I don't just move on. Like I'm solving this problem by introducing this ID, but this is not, this class isn't even used that much, right? So realistically, what I should do is drop the in-memory, leave that till later, and then I've got a cleaner API. But this helps to demonstrate. Right, so GUID dot new GUID. So I don't know. Fox4JJ. Hello, welcome. Thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. Because that ID that I've set actually isn't visible to the outside, right? Right now, because I don't actually create a version of that That's just an internal concern. So now I've messed up the internal API because that Outbox message here, all that's used is to transfer back and forth between the actual Outbox. So it's kind of an internal thing entirely, right? So I pull it out as I add. In this instance, I'm adding it in and using it as the key, right? But all from the other perspective, all I need is the retrieve next message and the commit, right? So the SQL Outbox doesn't even need to know about ID because it's not necessary for this. It doesn't need ID, right? So I'm not actually using an Outbox message here to create. I'm only using an Outbox message here, and ID is irrelevant to it. So that will be if someone comes and looks at this, the ID will be a confusing API. And also now I've broken this because now I need the ID to make this constructor work. Sorry. I hope the noise gate cancels some of that out. I apologize if not. So I've got code that compiles because this is dynamic. That'll break. So my Outbox message. I think I'll do. I'm going to get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a workable version. Right. If message is in memory. The problem is I don't know what the ID is there. So rather than make the generality go all the way up, right, because I don't need it out here, make a specific version in here. Public interface, I in memory, Outbox message. implementation before interface. And then what we do is say if message that's a lot of coding for something that's pretty much not necessary, but it does mean that we can support that. These are internal. They don't need to be exposed externally because they're just an implementation outside. And now what is that complaining about? T event. T event must be convertible. Oh, no. That's better. That's healthier. And that becomes that. We should still have a working in-memory outbox, but you shouldn't actually know. The consumer should not actually be exposed to this specialization of the object. That leaves us with the ability to at least have a unique identifier per message, so the in-memory message outbox can still work. Again, a lot of effort, but it means that the actual API for everything else doesn't need to change, and there's a core behavior that's protected there. So that's good. So now this should still function. And let's see. Can I convert? So now, what is this? Publish event. So this is actually now in our thing. So when we publish event, we need to have message.key. That's GUID key. The biggest risk to this is if I don't want to use GUIDs. Let's say I decide to have a more flexible key style, right? I'm now committing a whole ton of code to using that GUID. Being more generic at this phase, being that I kind of use the GUID everywhere, would be, I think that's a little unnecessary. So I'm not going to panic about that. So I can test these projects, right? So produce a sample. If I run this, it will publish an event, right? So produce a sample. So I should get an event published. That ran. So if I go over to here and go to topics, I should have a message in here. And there we go. There's our sample event, right? So we've got an event ID, we've got a code on. None of our specialized event source stuff, that's okay. If I run a consumer sample, I should get that message back, right? Hello world 42. Okay, so I've consumed that now, right? If I run the Outbox sample, this should create hello world with 101. Outbox sample, and it should actually create the event in here. Nope. Why didn't you do that? So it built the message, but it's got an object reference error at line 34 in the Outbox service. Okay, so our message looks like this. No event. No, there's the event. Sample event. Our key. We have no key. We have no key because I would bet I'm not. No key? Yep, it was a pasta joke all along. Turn nice message. So this shouldn't. In memory. Outbox message key. That's fine. I love that. I love when you end up going back and forth with like, oh, you should do this. Oh, no, but you should do this. Oh, but you should actually do this. So why does that not actually? So it is an in-memory message outbox. Why is the key not set? So when I publish this publish here, F11. Oh no, no. Okay, so we have a key. We go into post async here. We have a message, and our key is 0. What's that key then? Did I? Oh, because I inherited and then didn't override. Okay, that's the problem. So these aren't necessary because these are now, because I inherit from this class. Initially, I did it from the interface. What I did then is I actually hid all those underlying values. So it'll let me build the code, but I actually hide. But they're going to replace those values. That's the problem. This should function a little bit better now. So the message now has a key. There you go. So now you see how it has no duplicate values everywhere. The sample event has everything. So that should now go through to here. There you go. There's 101. So our in-memory message outbox is functional. Now we can run this. Now this isn't going to demonstrate. This isn't going to publish an actual event. Although it might. Let's see if it actually does. It might actually produce something. No, it won't because there's no actual a topic lookup for it. So what that does is, or what that should do, it's not doing. It should create a sample event. There's no Kafka configuration. I'm heading out. Thanks for streaming. Have a good day. Apex, thank you very much for stopping by. Appreciate you. Have a great day. So realistically, what I need to do here is I need to set this up properly. So let's delete that one. reference events, some value, some other value equals 99. Let's run that again. Outbox SQL sample. And so I didn't run the Outbox SQL sample before either, so that's going to be confusing. So this runs through and runs a test container. So what this is actually doing is validating it actually creates the Outbox. Invalid column name key. So the problem there is I haven't added that to the migration. So I go here, add migration, add key. I like how it actually runs it. That's amusing. So now when I run this, it should run through and produce a value to that same sample topic. Nope, you're going to error. Cannot find the object outbox messages because it does not exist. It do not have permissions. Cannot find the object outbox messages. Well, that's most perturbing. So with the SQL sample, what I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to get an instance of the Outbox DB context. And now that's saying that that doesn't exist. Let's see if it produced the message. It did not produce the message. Again, if you're new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, if you've done this sort of stuff before, you know, I'm always open to learning, to grow, and to understanding different perspectives on the same code. So I'm always open to the discussion about it. If you've not seen this sort of stuff before and you have any questions on why I might be doing this, you know, I'm always, again, I'm happy to discuss this, this sort of stuff, because it can look intimidating. It's not actually as intimidating as it might seem. So, you know, I'm mindful of that part. So why does this now fail? It's got to do something. It's got to be something to do with the table naming. Configurations, Kafka messaging outbox. These aren't technically needed now. These were required because of I was trying to run a custom migration path. So I think that they don't need to be there. That just leaving code like that, although it's not harmful, it kind of blurs the lines as to why might I want that there. So let's see if this runs. It ran enough to run a migration. Why cannot find the object? Because it does not exist. You do not have permissions. Because what this does is it actually creates a test container with a SQL instance, starts it up, runs the migration, and then shuts it down afterwards. So the hopeful pike here. So that is this like, what is this? Is this like 64, 157. So I can, in theory, problem is I don't know what it creates as credentials. So this might be impossible to get into. Login failed for user blank. Attempt to log in using SQL. So let's stop running that. Let's see what happens. This should clean up, right? This should actually end up going away. Unless that's the problem. There you go, it's gone. Okay, so that goes away. Hold on. Oh, configure Kafka SQL Outbox. That's there to run the migration. So close. So the goal right now is to get this. If this works, then my interface is almost identical to what I have now. I can then go to Liquid Sky, and yes, it's going to take a while, so I'll probably do it off stream this part, but I'll remove all my Kafka components from this system and rewire this back in, and the API should be almost identical to the point where the event sourcing stuff I'll be able to extend in the same way I just did the in memory, right? I'll be able to extend and still maintain the event sourcing behavior, the event source capture, but it will be an extension. So this will become iEvent, and then everything else should start to work. So that would be the goal. Just got to get there first. Okay. Ads are running. Apologize. I wonder if the migration is the problem. Ah, that's why. Mm. Being that we haven't actually run this at all yet, it's fine to do this. But basically, I need the migration doesn't line up is the problem. There we go. That looks healthier. I renamed that manually, so the actual code didn't line up with the configuration. So then it was like, oh, okay, well now you need to rename it, and yeah, I bet this will work now. He says with absolute confidence and kind of a professional. So what we're looking for is one message, and then what we want to see is an event appear in here. right? Sample event, localhost. So it should do with producer, with default publisher, add outbox publisher. So the publisher should actually set the worker service going. And then by running, it should be waiting. So a message should get produced. Let's do that again, and let's do add outbox publisher, outbox service. Let's try that one again, one more time. Okay, so we have a message, sample event, go in here, go here. Oh, no topic found. So the problem is the topic isn't there. Configuration topics is null. Add Kafka. Use app settings. Oh, I know why. You've got to copy the app settings file out. Otherwise things don't work right. Because it's not running from the directory. Oh, look. Nope, still not working. Awesome. That's kind of what I want to get this done before I finish the stream, because it's very important that I kind of move on from this. Again, what I'm trying to do here is build up a strong foundation. Make this an actual library that I can maintain externally to the actual main application for the exact same reason. I want to know when I'm breaking a general behavior versus I'm actually still not in there. Topics aren't loading. Kafka producer topics type name. That's pretty much the way I do it. Add Kafka. I just don't need to do add default publisher in this case, because that's with default publisher. So that's a little bit. I'm gonna have to, again, the API there doesn't make much sense, because realistically what I want to say there is, I mean, with Outbox publisher, right? Because again, if I do, because again, it's not default. Don't need to do that. Infrastructure, so oh, that's why I do it that way. So that way we don't have to do that. that should be done here now, which makes sense. Add Outbox publisher, right? So add Outbox publisher does that now. Add Outbox, so we don't need with default. We don't need with Outbox publisher there now. It's automatically there. Although let's go and remove that entirely so it's not. It's just redundant from an API perspective. It doesn't read well, and it kind of, again, I've got all sorts of, oh well, use the Outbox publisher, use the publisher, use the default publisher. What is the default publisher, right? So now I have add default publisher, add this, and add Outbox publisher. So now they kind of are implying the same behavior or different behaviors. Before I had to explicitly add that behavior. Well, something tells me I'm not going to get this tightened up today, or rather on the stream today. So, we are going to raid out. We're going to go to see Mr. Basheros, who's doing a Blazor demo and database container stuff, so more dev stuff. And is also suffering from a bot attack. Oh no. Oh no. He's being attacked. Okay, so he's currently having to deal with that, so that's not very fair to go and raid into him while he's dealing with that. So let's go to full stack. I'd love to go to Frank, and I definitely recommend following Frank if you haven't done before. Shout out, right? Why is that now not recognized? What? I gave up today, Twitch. You're broken. So let's go and raid over to full stack. He does office hours on Friday. So general chat, general conversation, great streamer, really nice guy. Highly recommend giving a follow if you haven't been there before. Mr. Jones, thank you very much for hanging out. Appreciate you. I'll get this tightened up, and my goal will be by next week to have this all integrated into my existing application. And yeah, so that will be the goal. So let's go raid full stack. I will see you around. Have a great weekend if I don't see you again today. And thank you all. Take care.